Welcome to Lulu's Storytime, where imagination comes to life. Get ready to dive into a world full of heartwarming tales that will capture your imagination as you drift off to sleep.
The Magical Life of the Christmas Fairy, written and read by Lila-Ann Gray, illustrated by Sanji Parvin. Fluff the fairy loved her job of sitting on top of the Mackenzies' Christmas tree. Her favourite time was when the children were allowed to switch on the fairy lights. They would stand and admire them as they twinkled and shone, brightening up the whole room. When everyone was in bed asleep, Fluff would climb down from the Christmas tree and stretch out next to the cat on the rug by the fire as it was slowly going out. As a magical fairy, she would grow bigger once she came down from the tree. She enjoyed the conversations she'd have with Pickle the cat, who would tell her all about her adventures when she went out each day. Fluff was so happy that she and Pickle were such good friends. On Christmas Eve, when Father Christmas arrived, squeezing himself down the chimney, Fluff would be waiting for him. He would always have time for a quick chat while eating one of the mince pies that would be left out for him before he'd move on to another home. When Christmas was over and it was time for everything to be taken off the tree and packed away, Fluff was placed in a very special, safe box and placed in the Mackenzies' attic to wait for the following Christmas. As the attic door closed, everywhere went dark and very quiet. Fluff knew it was then time for her to go home. As she was a special magical fairy, she knew it would be easy to get herself out of the box in the attic and into the star-filled sky outside. Flying through the night, she thought happily about seeing her family and friends. She always missed them when she was away, but she loved her life and all the different things she had to do, using her special magical powers. As she flew home, that was the time when her adventures would begin. She saw the star fairies, who looked just like the stars because of their beautiful sparkly dresses. When you next look up into the night sky, see if you spot them as they dance around, twinkling brightly. The star fairies were very excited as they had found a new star and wanted to show it to Fluff. Her friend Flix, one of the star fairies, took her hand and showed her the most beautiful, bright, glittering star that was twinkling in amongst the other stars and shining very brightly. She then continued her journey, waving to the owls sitting in the branches of the trees. Oh, she would laugh as she watched them swooping down to the ground if they thought anything moved. Next, she stopped for a drink with the little people who lived on the moon. They were called Moops, short for moon people. They were really fun, and sometimes when Fluff visited, they'd take her in their special cars to look around and see their little homes. By the time she arrived home, she felt quite tired. She lived high up in the tree trunk of a very old and a very tall tree. She loved her house, and when she looked out of her window, she could see for miles around. After being home for a short while and seeing her family and friends, Fluff had to start work again. The season was turning from winter to spring. When that time of year appeared, Fluff joined the Bellfairs, who lived amongst the bluebells. No human could ever tell what was a Bellfair and what was a bluebell. It's always really important to be very careful not to walk on any flowers that grow in the woods. You certainly wouldn't want to squash one of the Bellfairs, would you? The Belfair's job was to guard the bluebells and make sure no human would stand on them. Animals would walk or run amongst them, and that was all right because they would spring up again. But human feet would crush them, and that could not be allowed. In summer, Fluff would become a pollen guide. She would help the other guides to find the best flowers for pollen and lead the bees to them so they could collect it to make honey. Sometimes the fairy guides would have to disguise themselves as butterflies, because there would be times when a bumblebee would have taken so much pollen it became dizzy and would need a ride back to the beehive. That would mean they'd have to ride on the back of a butterfly. Occasionally the fairy guides would be invited to the hives, where they'd have a honey party. That was always a favourite with Fluff, who loved honey. During the summer months there would be times when rainbows appeared. Fluff would also become a rainbow fairy. That was a very important job, as a rainbow fairy answers children's wishes if they've been good. So when you see a rainbow, don't forget to make a wish to the rainbow fairy. This was one of Fluff's favourite jobs because she'd always try and hide so that she could see the look of pure joy on the child's face when the wish was granted. Can you see her hiding in the child's bedroom? In the autumn, Fluff's job would be to help the squirrels collect their store of nuts to tide them over the winter months. Sometimes she would have to stand guard over the squirrels' secret storehouse because a few naughty birds would watch the activities and steal the nuts. Fluff would shoo them away. In December, Fluff would prepare for her journey back to the Mackenzies. She would rest in the box for a few days to wait for the family to return to the attic to bring her down with the decorations. As she rested from all her adventures throughout the year, she felt so lucky and blessed that she had such a lovely and fulfilling life. When the Mackenzies eventually went up to the attic to once again find all the decorations and the lights, they were always so delighted to see Fluff safely in her box and couldn't wait to put her on top of the tree. As soon as Fluff was on top of the tree and everyone had gone to bed, pleased with their decorating everywhere in readiness for Christmas, Fluff flew down and hugged her dear friend Pickle. They had so much news for each other and spent a wonderful night telling each other all they had been doing since they had last been together. Fluff sighed with satisfaction as she put her head on Pickle's lovely, warm, furry tummy, ready to go to sleep. She just wanted to be able to help others, and that's exactly what she did in her very magical life.
Come back to Lulu's for more story time.